Argentina's Rugby World Cup squad is out, folks. This is a pretty similar team to the one that played in the Rugby Championship, although with an initially massive squad named by Michael Cheika for that competition and a limit to 33 places. He's had to kind of trim things down for this one. We'll go through the squad, some of their fixtures, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how the Argentinians may be going to go with a kind of interesting pool and an interesting side of the draw. Creevy, Montoya, and Ruiz, those are the three hookers. Ruiz is the kind of youngster of the bunch, 22. The other guy is 38 and 29. Montoya is captain, so he is likely to get the lion's share of the minutes. And I would imagine Creevy's probably going to retire after this Rugby World Cup, having just brought up his 100 caps for Argentina. So, yeah, he'll probably get to start at least one or two of the games, Creevy. But I would imagine for the big games, it's going to be Montoya with Creevy on the bench. 5 props for the Argentinians. Some of the teams have been going with 6, but it's just the 5. Bello, Tetaz, Chaparro, Kodela, Sclavi, and Gallo. I would imagine it's Kodela and Gallo, and then the other guys are competing for those bench spots, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. Kodela is certainly, alongside Creevy, one of the older fellas in the squad at 38, but then, Gallo is only 24 and been kind of tearing it up around the park. So, yeah, the front row is going to have to be good, you would imagine, and Michael Cheika has spoken numerous times about the things he wants to get right with Argentinian rugby as soon as he took over was get the set piece right, get the fundamentals right. So it has been a little bit of an area of weakness. If it performs up to the level it can, then they'll certainly give themselves a good platform to progress in the competition. Locks, kind of a couple of specialist locks in Alemanno and Lavanini, and then a bunch of guys who are kind of your lock loose forward hybrids. So Petti, I would imagine, is primarily there as a lock. I think for his club, he plays a fair bit in the back row. Not that he's played much rugby this year with injury, but he is back fit. And then Rubiolo and Crema. Rubiolo has been deployed recently as a bit of a lock, even though I think his background is more loose forward, but I stand to be corrected on that one. No Lucas Paulos in the side, which maybe goes to the fact that he was hit in the head pretty badly in that last game that Argentina played. But also just with the return of Petti means essentially with Alemanno, Lavanini and Petti, you've probably got your best 3 Argentinian locks there with guys like Rubiolo and Crema who can cover. Back row, Isa, Matera, Juan, González, Grondona and Bruni. The Argentinian back row, I think, has been an area of strength for quite some time. It's likely to be Juan González, who's been in phenomenal form. Great guy in the line-out as well, which is something he doesn't get that much credit for, and he's still only 22 years old. And then I would imagine Matera with one more, probably Crema, but remember he's not had any rugby recently because of that big ban he's been serving for his red cards in club rugby. But that's traditionally been the balance they like. But then if you bring in Isa, if you bring in Bruni, you got some big ball carriers there. Grondona's work rate is pretty solid. But yeah, that is your forward pack. Average age of 28. It's kind of middle of the road. As I said, there's a few kind of old fellas, the 38-year-olds, still younger than me. And then there's a few youngsters as well in the terms of 22-year-old Juan González, Gallo 24 for a props, really young. Ruiz is only 22. And it's starting to piddle down with rain. For the backs for the Argentinians, they have had to kind of make a few hard calls because as there's only so many spots. 3 halfbacks with Bertrano, Bazan Velez and Kubeli. So I would imagine Bertrano is the starting guy, and it's between the other two for that kind of bench spot. Do you go with Bazan Velez, who's a bit less experienced, or do you go with the veteran in Kubeli? And then Carreras and Sanchez are your 2 guys who cover 10. Santiago Carreras has been the leading candidate for a couple of years now. Remember, he kind of made his break initially as an outside back, but has moved into what I believe he played in his youth career, that role as a 10. And with Boffelli goal kicking, takes a little bit of the pressure off him from the tee. There's no spot for Tomás Albornoz, which is unfortunate because he looks to be kind of one of those future prospects for Argentinian rugby once a guy like Sanchez retires. But I think Michael Cheika spoke about wanting to get that experience in that position, so the 34-year-old is there. And he's 3 caps away, I think, from 100, so it'd be nice for him to get 100 caps for the services he's provided to Argentinian rugby. And especially seeing as Santiago Carreras is the main guy, it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other as to who you pick as his backup. Midfielders, Chocobares, Cinti, De La Fuente, and Moroni. So there's no spot for Orlando in the squad, but he's not had any game time in recent weeks anyway. Cinti is a guy who I've been a little bit critical of in recent times, but I think has stepped up, which is impressive in a Rugby World Cup year. And then he's got some very experienced guys in De La Fuente and Moroni there. But he could also go with the kind of more youthful and potential in Chocobares. Outside backs, Boffelli, Carreras, that's Mateo Carreras, Imhoff, Iskro, Bogaro, and Malia. Malia will be serving a suspension for that red card he got in that game against South Africa, but should be available pretty early on. And then Bogaro got that one cap in that final game. He's maybe what you could consider a little bit of, I don't want to say surprising, but to go from no caps to the Rugby World Cup is a big boost for him. And then likewise the sevens man Iskoro only I think got the one game, so hasn't had a heck of a lot of time in 15s. But to get into a Rugby World Cup is a big move for him. Imhoff, the veteran, is there in case they decide to go down that route. But I would say 2 of the back 3 spots have to be Boffelli, because he's been very consistent and his goal kicking is very important. And Mateo Carreras, who has certainly been the most dangerous of the Pumas outside backs in terms of just clean breaks, defenders beaten, that kind of thing, which is an area that the Argentinians have struggled with a little bit in the Rugby Championship. They've had heaps of ball, heaps of carries, but just that kind of X factor to kind of break tackles, break the line, has still been a little bit hard to come by. It means guys like Santiago Cordero and Batista Del Rey, Sebastian Cancellieri, all these guys miss out. They've got lots of good outside backs. It's tough for a guy like Cordero to miss out to an inexperienced guy like Iskoro, but Checa must see more potential in the younger guys. So yeah, fixtures wise, they've got Spain in a kind of last warm-up game, and then straight in with a vital fixture against England. If they can win the one against England, they will certainly be favourites to top the pool. That's potentially a pool-deciding game. Samoa, who've been improving. Chile will be the kind of South American rivalry. And then Japan, which if they lose the match to England in those last 3, become big, important must-win games. But yeah, that is the Pumas squad for 2023. I still need to update their logo, having changed that recently. But yeah, they are being predicted by many to do well in this tournament, especially being on the side of the draw that they're on. I still think they're a touch away from meeting that potential that they have shown. But as I said, the fundamentals is where Checa's focus has been. If they can just build that little bit of kind of X-factor play, get the most out of guys like Boffelli, like Mateo Carreras, like the sevens guy Iskoro, to get them into some space, or even just those dangerous loosies like Facundo Issa to start busting tackles from the bench, or Pablo Matera with those wide passes. If that kind of stuff can click, then certainly the Argentinians will be a very, very dangerous side. You guys let us know your thoughts on the Pumas. How do you think they're going to go? If you haven't done so yet, check out my other channel, which is called 2 Cents on Tour. I'll put a card up in the corner for you guys, or a link down in the description. That's me wandering around China with a camera, speaking Chinese to people. I can't speak Spanish, sadly. One of these days I'll have to learn it. But if you want to see me speaking Chinese, that's the place to be. But yeah, you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.